like a buttercup. You're a Barbie doll. Show them all what I'm made of. Strut down the hall. Won't stop till I get enough.
All right, let's jump right in. We're diving into the NBA Cup semifinals. You guys sent us some awesome articles about these games, and wow, what a perfect setting for these crucial games, right? Las Vegas.
Yeah, the energy in Vegas is just electric right now.
I know. It's like the perfect backdrop for these high-stakes games.
Totally. The stakes are so high, the competition is fierce, and Vegas just adds that extra layer of excitement.
For sure. So first up, we had the Bucks facing the Hawks, and honestly, I was really curious to see how Giannis would perform, especially with all this talk about him being a potential MVP candidate again.
Oh, yeah, for sure. This game was a huge statement for him, don't you think?
Yeah.
I mean, he practically put up a triple-double.
He was so close. 32 points, 14 rebounds, and 9 assists.
Yeah. And it wasn't just the numbers, you know? It was how he was playing.
Yeah.
He dominated.
Oh, he was unstoppable. That block on Clint Capella in the final minutes. I mean, come on.
Oh, yeah. That was huge.
Yeah.
But honestly, what impressed me even more was his passing out of double teams.
Oh, really? Tell me more.
You remember how last season teams could just shut him down by double teaming him? It felt like that was their go-to strategy.
Yeah, I remember that.
This time, he's making way better decisions. He's finding the open man. He's creating opportunities for his teammates. And that, to me, that's MVP-level growth.
That's a really good point. I hadn't thought about it like that. He's not just the scoring machine anymore. He's like a conductor out there.
Exactly. He's running the show.
Okay. But we can't forget about Trae Young either. He put up a good fight for the Hawks, 35 points, 10 assists. He really comes alive in these big moments.
Yeah, he stepped up for sure, especially in the third quarter. He was on fire. But if I'm being honest, it felt like he was forcing some of those shots later in the game, like maybe a little too much hero ball, when what they really needed was to move the ball and, find the open man.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Like he had that I gotta win this myself look in his eyes.
Yeah, exactly.
Which, you gotta admire that competitive fire, but it can backfire sometimes.
Definitely.
It was a close game though, right?
Oh, yeah. Super close. It
Yeah.
went back and forth the whole time.
I bet. The lead must have changed hands, like a million times?
A ton. Neither team could really pull away. It was intense.
I can only imagine. But the Bucks ultimately pulled it off. Giannis's leadership probably helped a lot. And, they've got that championship experience.
Right. That experience definitely showed. And they made some key adjustments on defense in that second half, especially on Trazy. They really managed to slow him down.
How so?
Well, they started trapping him more aggressively, forcing the ball out of his hands, and basically making the other Hawks players beat them.
That's a smart move. That's championship-level strategy for sure.
Right. You got to adapt to win, and they did just that.
So the Bucks, they're moving on to the championship game. But before we get there, we got to talk about that other semifinal matchup.
You mean the Thunder and the Rockets?
Yeah, and this is where it gets really interesting because we're talking about two of the youngest teams in the league. It's almost like a sneak peek into the future of the NBA, don't you think?
It totally is. You got all this young talent and raw potential on display. It's exciting to see.
And the Thunder, they've been on a roll lately. They've won 8 of their last 9 games. They even took down Luka and the Mavericks.
Oh, yeah. That was a big win for them. They've been playing some really impressive basketball lately.
You're following their progress closely, right? What do you think is clicking for them right now?
Well, I think a big part of it is their team chemistry.
Mm-hmm.
They're playing so well together. You can see it in their ball movement, their spacing, and just their overall understanding of each other on the court. They just seem to get each other.
It's like they're all on the same wavelength.
Exactly. They're playing like a well-oiled machine. And Shai, oh man, Shai's been phenomenal.
Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, right?
Yes. He's electric. He can score from anywhere. He's a creative playmaker. And he's really stepped up as a leader for that team.
Yeah. I'm excited to see how he matches up against Jalen Green. The Rockets had that, let's just say dramatic win over the Warriors.
Dramatic is a good word for it. That game was wild.
There was a lot of controversy around the officiating. Steve Kerr wasn't too happy about it.
He was fuming.
Yeah.
And you know what? That whole situation is going to put a lot of pressure on the refs for the Thunder Rockets game. You can bet they're going to be watching every call very carefully.
Oh, yeah, for sure. The league's going to be watching closely. But, before we dive too deep into that matchup, let's take a quick break, and then we'll come back to break down everything you need to know about the Thunder and the Rockets. All right, so we're back, and we're ready to break down this Thunder-Rockets matchup. You sent us some great articles about both teams, and I'm excited to dive into your thoughts on this one.
Me too. This one could be a classic. Two young teams hungry to prove themselves. They've both got these explosive offenses and tons of talent on both sides of the court.
And speaking of talent, let's look at the starting lineups. So for the Rockets, we've got Dillon Brooks, Jabari Smith Jr., Alperen Sengun, Jalen Green, and Fred VanVleet. What stands out to you when you look at that?
Well, right away, you see they're going with a smaller, more versatile lineup. They're really prioritizing speed and shooting, which makes sense considering their style of play.
Oh, for sure.
And Dillon Brooks, he's a tough defender. He's physical. He'll probably be matched up against Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
Oh, yeah, that's going to be an interesting matchup. Brooks is known for his, well, let's just say intense defense.
Yeah, he brings that edge to the game. It'll be interesting to see how Shai handles that physicality.
For sure. And for the Thunder, we've got Lou Dort, Jalen Williams, Isaiah Hartenstein, Cason Wallace, and of course, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
So the Thunder are going with a more traditional lineup. Hartenstein gives them some size and rim protection, but don't underestimate them. They're still incredibly athletic and dynamic.
You know, we talked about the Thunder's recent success, but the Rockets have been playing well, too. They squeaked out that one-point win against the Warriors, but there was all that controversy with the officiating.
Right. You know, that's going to put the refs under a microscope in this game. Every call they make is going to be scrutinized. And it'll be interesting to see how the players react to that pressure.
Yeah, like an added layer of intensity almost. But let's talk a bit more about the Rockets' strengths. What makes them such a formidable opponent in this matchup?
Well, their speed and shooting are definitely huge assets. Jalen Green can just score at will. And Fred VanVleet is a smart veteran who knows how to control the game. He can create opportunities for his teammates like nobody's business.
And Alperen Sengun, he's become such a unique and versatile center.
Oh, yeah. He's a triple-double threat every time he's on the court. He can score inside and out. He's an excellent passer. And he's surprisingly agile for his size.
So we've got these two really talented, high-energy teams going head-to-head. What do you think are going to be the deciding factors in this game?
Well, I think it boils down to a few things. First, can the Rockets contain Shai Gilgeous-Alexander? He's the Thunder's main scoring threat. If Dillon Brooks can't slow him down, it's going to be a tough night for the Rockets.
Right. Shai's ability to create his own shot and get to the basket is unbelievable.
And then on the other side, can the Thunder handle the Rockets' pace and shooting? If Jalen Green and Fred VanVleet get hot from three-point range, the Thunder could be in trouble.
So it's kind of a classic battle of offense versus defense.
In a way, yeah. I think the Thunder will try to slow things down and control the tempo, while the Rockets will be looking to push the pace and get out in transition.
That should make for some pretty exciting basketball. You know, one thing that really stands out to me about this matchup is the contrasting styles of the two coaches.
Yeah, for sure. They're very different coaches.
So with the Thunder, you've got Marc Daigneault, who's really known for his analytical approach and his attention to detail. He's created a system that emphasizes ball movement, spacing, and discipline.
And then you've got Stephen Silas with the Rockets, who's more of a free-flowing, offensive-minded coach. He gives his players a lot of freedom to create and just make plays.
It's like a clash of coaching philosophies almost.
Totally. And it's going to be fascinating to see whose style wins out. Remember, you mentioned in your notes being interested in how this game might impact the NBA Cup Finals.
Oh, yeah, that's a great point. Whoever wins this game is going to have a ton of momentum going to the finals. You know, they'll be riding high on confidence and feeling like they can beat anyone.
But on the flip side, they'll also be exhausted. They'll have just gone through a tough emotional battle, and they won't have much time to rest before facing the Bucks.
So you're saying fatigue could be a factor?
Definitely. It's a real concern. The Bucks, on the other hand, will have had a few extra days to rest and prepare. They'll be coming in fresh and ready to go.
Interesting. So even though the winner of this Thunder Rockets game will be on a high, that fatigue factor could give the Bucks an advantage in the finals.
It's definitely possible. And it makes you wonder about the tournament format itself. Does it really favor the best team? Or does it sometimes just reward the team that's playing the best at the right time?
That's a great question. And honestly, I don't think we can answer that right now. But it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out.
For sure. And going back to your point about the impact on the finals, it's not just about physical fatigue. It's mental fatigue, too.
Yeah.
The emotional toll of winning a game like this can be huge, and it could affect the winner's focus and execution in the championship game.
So much to consider. It's amazing, right? We've got these two young, dynamic teams playing such different styles of basketball with two very different coaches, and the stakes are so high. The winner goes on to the NBA Cup Finals with all that momentum, but they also have to deal with that potential fatigue factor.
Yeah.
This is going to be an epic game.
I know, right? And it could be a game that changes the league. We're watching the next generation of stars step onto the biggest stage and show what they can do.
It's an exciting time for the NBA. So before we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with one final thought to think about. We've talked a lot about the matchups, the strategies, the potential impact on the finals. But at the end of the day, this is just basketball. It's a game. It's supposed to be fun, exciting, unpredictable.
Right, so let's just relax and enjoy the show. These young players are going to put on a clinic. And who knows, maybe we'll even see some history made tonight.
I love that attitude. Let's embrace the unpredictability and enjoy the ride. We'll be back soon with more insights and analysis. But until then, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep that love of the game alive. So we've covered a ton of ground in this deep dive, from Giannis's incredible performance to the Thunder and Rockets' completely different styles. We've looked at the matchups, we've talked about coaching strategies, and we even considered, the impact of fatigue on the NBA Cup Finals.
We really did go deep. And going back to your notes, you were really interested in how these younger teams might challenge the more established teams, right?
Yeah. That's one of the most exciting things about this tournament, right? You've got the Bucks, a team that's been a top contender for years, and they're facing either this super young and hungry Thunder team or the Rockets, who have a ton of raw talent.
It's like this battle of the generations.
Right.
And honestly, I think it's amazing for the league. It adds a whole new level of excitement, and you never know what's going to happen.
Exactly. And thinking back to your question about the tournament format, does it reward the best team or just the hottest team? I think I'm starting to lean towards the hottest team.
Yeah.
Because, in a 7-game series, experience and depth matter more. But in a single elimination tournament, anything can happen.
True. Well, momentum is huge in a tournament.
Yeah.
And if the Thunder or the Rockets can keep riding that wave of energy, they could definitely surprise everyone and win it all.
Especially if they can throw the Bucks off their game and make them play differently than they're used to. We haven't talked much about pressure, but I think that's going to be a big factor in the championship game.
Oh, yeah, for sure. The Bucks have a lot of pressure on them.
Yeah.
Everyone expects them to win.
Yeah.
And that can be tough to handle, especially for a team that hasn't won a championship in a while.
Right. And then you've got the Thunder or the Rockets, whoever wins that semifinal game, they're the underdogs. They have nothing to lose.
And that can be dangerous.
Yeah.
That underdog mentality. It lets you play more freely, more aggressively, without that fear of messing up.
Like when the Raptors beat the Warriors a few years back.
Exactly. They were the underdogs and nobody expected them to win.
Yeah.
But they had that fire, that hunger.
Yeah.
And they pulled it off.
Yeah. So I think that's what makes this NBA Cup Final so interesting. You've got these two completely different mindsets clashing, the Bucks with all that pressure and expectations, and then whoever their opponent is with that underdog mentality.
And that psychological battle might be just as important as the game itself.
Right. So as we wrap up this dip dive, I want to leave you with this. We've talked about the stats, the matchups, the strategies, but in the end, it comes down to heart and that desire to win.
Who knows? We might just see a brand new dynasty born.
Yeah.
A young team defying the odds and making history.
What a way to end it. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the NBA Cup semifinals. We'll be back soon with more analysis and insights, but until then, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep loving the game.
Sound the alarm. I'm coming up. We'll have the ball. I'm sweet like a buttercup. You're a Barbie doll. Show them all what I'm made of. Strut down the hall. Won't stop till I get enough.